set out to chase kingfish on today's episode of Fishy Business, and we're not disappointed. Come with us as we fish for one of New Zealand's greatest sport fish.
One happy fisherman.
Darren takes a group of young fellas out diving to get up close and personal with kingfish. And Kirk shows you don't have to go far offshore to catch good kingies.
But man, they fight hard and they'll find that reef. And there he is.
The yellowtail kingfish can be found all around the coast of the North Island and the upper South Island. Accessible to all anglers whether you fish from the shore or you fish from a boat. To many they're the ultimate catch as they fight hard and take anglers and tackle to the limit. Kingfish are highly predatory and this makes them great to target on lures. So the way we rig these stick baits up is we're fishing with 80 and 100 pound braid, very heavy, but we're fishing anything from 36 down to about 7 metres of water so the kingies can get into the reef really easily. So you need to be able to bullock them out. To the end of that, we tie a length of monofilament leader, probably about a rod and a half length for casting purposes, of between 80 and 130 pound, depending, there's a few small fish around today, so 80's fine. And then we attach a swivel with a very, very heavy duty split ring. And it's important to make sure your hardware is really heavy duty because you could be catching those little fish, next minute you're onto a 30 kilo fish. And if you've got any substandard gear, it's gonna get found out.
Oh!
Yes!
Oh! Out of the water!
Our guest angler, South African cricket coach Russell Domingo, was about to find out how tough kingies are.
That thing rolls clean out of the water. I hope it's the fish. I hope that's the fish that I hooked because it was a big fish that jumped out the water.
Boat driving and manoeuvring is a part of this whole fishing thing because you've got to get the angler in a position where you can play the fish and play it away from the reef. We noticed this fish was hooked very deep down in the gills, very low chance of survival, so we thought this one can come home for dinner.
Get a look, I've seen him there, he's just there. Good fish.
We were being really cautious handling the fish beside the boat as the lures were set up with treble hooks that could easily impale you as the fish fights.
Okay. Put it down. One happy fisherman.
We're just heading back up the reef. Russell just landed his 30-pound kingfish. We're very excited. Not only the one that we landed, but there are a lot of other big models still in the water that were chasing the other lures as we were trying to land Russell. So we're going to go back up, chuck the lures back in, see what happens.
Pliers are an essential bit of equipment for rigging lures and for removing hooks. What happened there, mate?
I was watching the other corner where there's two fish hooked up, and then all of a sudden, bit of a jig and bang.
So what's the technique when you find them on a jig over the rough ground?
I like to lock and load really, reasonable drag, and try and bully the fish up as much as you can. But smooth drag. If you think they're getting to the bottom, you can palm the spools, or overhead you can thumb the spool, like that. But we don't want to jam it.
Mark's on a really good fish on the other side of the boat. Russell and I are still continuing to throw the lures out because there's a lot of fish holding in this area. We've seen a lot of bait fish. It's really heating up here.
Getting control of them, Mark.
Oh. No. Oh yeah, he's probably seen the shallows.
Short stroking, eh? That's the way to knock them over.
Yeah, look, a lot of people make the mistake to go lift too high with the rod. Ooh.
It's giving him a proper working over here, and it's not in deep water. I think it's only in 21 meters of water, so he's done really well to get it up this far.
Oh, there he goes. Oh. Nice release. We love to catch and release these fish. Beautiful.
Oh, look at that. Oh, that's what you want to see. Oh, you got it. Beautiful. Oh, look at this pack. Oh, the pack.
There are hundreds of them going there. Nice fish to smoke. How deep is?
That's what you want.
Get my camera straight on.
Oh, I'm going this way.
Hang on. Turn it. Yeah, drop the rod in the water.
Yep. Double bagging. It just went crazy then. They all came up on Russ's lure, and then I cast into where he'd hooked up, and I've hooked up. Oh, it's not a bad one either.
He's gonna go.
Yeah. Oh. This is why you do this sort of fishing for kingies, the surface action, the thrills of getting strikes right beside the boat, oh, and the power of these magnificent game fish.
Well, that was the little beauty.
Okay, I'm going to get the hook out and I'll bring him into the boat, okay? So, my lures.
That was a great pack attack. Doesn't get any better than that, buddy.
Doesn't that, mate? Okay.
We've caught kingfish from rat kingies right up to 15 kilos, and I've been watching the action from the side and I thought, maybe it's just my turn to have a cast.
Lance cast his stick bait to where the reef was coming up. He gave his lure a couple of twitches and it got attacked by a pack of kingies.
Get on him, Lance. I've got colour already, so... We just wondered whether it was going a bit quiet. And then this happened. Oh dear. I just had to get back in the boat. I was sitting on the back transom and I didn't quite feel like that was the place for me to be with a big kingfish on my line.
It's a good idea to release large fish without taking them out of the water to minimise handling.
Pretty happy with that and puffing a bit.
Well, fantastic day on the game fish that's available to everyone, the kingfish. Russell's done us proud. He's a visitor from South Africa, but we've made him an honorary Kiwi today. What do you reckon, Russell? Good
Adam,
fishing?
what a day. Thanks for having me. Some great fish landed. Great company. Beautiful weather in Tauranga. Nothing else you could ask for.
Yeah, and thanks to Mark for guiding us and putting us on all the hot fish and having all the right lures for the action. Top day. Coming up, the Poor Nights provide some great thrills as Darren guides some young freedivers.
I believe the jewel in our crown for New Zealand diving is the Poor Nights, situated just off the Tutukaka coast.
We're out at Rico Cave at the Poor Nights. We've got a bunch of lads here who are itching to get in the water, but we thought we'd bring them in and show them the cave first. It's pretty spectacular when you can get a 7-metre boat like this in here, and they obviously get the real big boats in here. So we'll head out and go and have a look for some fish underwater.
It's deep inside this cave. It's got some interesting species living on its fringes. The rock structure below is similar to what's above. It's rugged, providing shelter for all manner of marine life.
It's a little bit choppy here, so we're going to get round the corner and find some nice calm water. The Poor Nights has got great anchorages all around it, so it doesn't really matter what direction the wind's coming from. You should be able to find a good calm anchorage.
In no time we had the Maxwell winch sending our anchor plummeting to the bottom, while the boys marvelled at the clear water and the fish gathering around us already. Our Southern Sports boat has ample room for the team to gear up, a very important factor when choosing a dive boat. The team are in. They're about to get a lesson on the importance of looking after our fish stocks. We're all hunters and gatherers, but unless you dive a place like this, you can never really understand the damage man does by taking too much. The boys with me today, with their dads, are Griff, my son, Daniel and his dad Glenn, Matt and his dad Phil, with Brett, whose son is not quite old enough just yet. Our first spot is Mau Mau Arch, aptly named as you can see. Outside of this marine reserve, you really see this many blue mau mau anymore. Daniel and Glenn breathe up to do a swim through. Glenn follows and keeps an eye on Daniel all the way through for safety. Note the nice calm manner in which they swim and how the big fins make it effortless for Glenn. Inquisitive fish follow him. The depth of the swim through is around 10 metres. Outside the arch, these koharu have gathered. They're fish candy for bigger fish. Kingfish love them. This 20-odd kg fish no doubt has eaten plenty. I haven't seen one before with a marking on his side like this. Maybe some fungal growth or something like that. They're such an inquisitive fish, it's their biggest downfall outside of a reserve. Matt gives us a demo on how easy it is to get close to snapper here. No way can you do this normally. Daniel comes down to check out this big green wrasse. He's diving really well. Nice slow descent, no jerky movements. These wrasse normally hide in the weed, only showing themselves every now and then. Daniel's ascent is nice and calm. Matt seems to really attract the snapper. I've got my Canon G16 camera to take some still photos. These Sandagers wrasse and red pigfish are stunning subjects. Their array of colours makes them a great photo subject. They're so easy to approach. This kingfish is in beautiful condition, big round barreled stomach. See how Matt holds himself dead still on the ledge. He's non-threatening. Snapper, also being an inquisitive fish, want to know what he's up to. These mau mau almost look like they've bunched up in a defensive position. Maybe something's going to feed on them. The boys are doing really well. They dive quietly, sort of away from the fish rather than straight at them. This is non-threatening again. It keeps the fish relaxed and happy to be around us. The boys were blown away at the size of some of these fish and how easy it was to get close to them. Remember to always watch each other for safety. It's easy to get caught up in doing your own thing. If you look deep, you'll find crays. This big guy has lost a feeler, maybe to a big snapper. If only we as human beings could come to our senses and understand the circle of life better. If we took only enough to eat, treating fish not as a sport, but as a valuable food source. Learn to interact the way we have, so we understand the marine environment as a whole better than what many do now. The Poor Knights is a fantastic legacy to leave generations to come. Outside the marine reserves, I'm not so sure. I know for myself and the other dads, this has been a great day out with our boys. For me, I need an annual dose of the Knights to keep me aligned with what's going on outside the reserve. It's a good excuse to down tools and spend some quality time with my boy and my good mates. Time slows when you're not a hunter-gatherer. You get to smell the roses and understand again what our marine environment should really look like.
Next up, inshore kingy action on the Wave Runner.
See how you get dragged around. Awesome fun getting dragged around by these fish. This mission starts with an early morning launch from the eastern side of the Coromandel Peninsula. The weather is perfect, but you can never be too careful. It goes without saying that I always wear a life vest, but in addition to this I carry a VHF, a phone and an emergency locator beacon just in case. The Wave Runner is an incredibly reliable and stable craft, but you never know what the ocean is going to throw at you, so it always pays to be prepared. Because I was going to be using live bait today, I already had the ski set up to accommodate them. This meant having the flies ready to drop and the Icy-Tech ready to keep them fresh. The beautiful sky that greeted me this morning held the promise of an awesome day, and that fishy feeling in my bones told me I wouldn't be disappointed. I'm only heading 10 or 15 minutes up the coast this morning, initially to find some live bait, and then I'm going to deploy them for some kingfish. I love fishing live bait because you know that when that reel starts to scream, you've got something substantial on. The sun's just coming up, so I'm going to get the Wave Runner moving and see what's occurring. Catching the liveys can often be harder than catching the kingfish. They can be caught in many different locations along the way, so I am always watching the sounder as I travel over likely spots to make sure I don't pass them by. As I arrived at this spot, things were looking good as the lolrants lit up, showing the fish below. With my bait flies already rigged and ready, I dropped straight down into the school to kick the day off. They can really fight hard, these little jack mackerel. You want to be careful of them because their mouths are a bit soft, so I'm being a bit gentle on them. I've got a light drag setting, and that's a couple of nice ones. Look at that. To hook the jack mackerel on, what I do is I get the hook, live bait hook, through its nostrils and just push it through his nostrils. He can then swim around there nice and free. And I like to make a bit of a splash with him when he hits the water. You can see the speed he's whistling away at, and he's gone down and he's stopped right where that sign is. He whistled off in a rush and now he's sitting there with his mates. What we want to do is get him out of that cover and get him chased by a kingy. With the kingfish hungry for an early morning bite, it was only a matter of minutes before I had my first inquiry. Fish on. Luckily the ski's so small you can easily go from side to side. See how you get dragged around. Awesome fun getting dragged around by these fish. Although this wasn't a huge kingfish, it was a great start to the day and signalled the fish were hungry. This guy's hooked right in the lip, which is nice and easy to release. Quick pick. With the first fish released, it was time to get another fresh bait out while the bite was hot. Oh, fish on, fish on. He took it as soon as I threw it in the water, then let it go, and then boom, he's back again. After hooking up almost instantly, this fish headed straight for the weed. Never ceases to amaze me, the power of these fish. The ones we've been getting haven't been huge in kingfish standards, 10 kilos, somewhere around there. But he's just digging in deep. There's some high weed, obviously, because the kingies will run to it and you'll feel that weed getting dragged through it as they get right in there, they shake their head and they try and get that get that line, get that trace, which is only 15 kilo fluorocarbon. They try and get it caught on some weed, and that can often flick the hook free or bust you off. You've got to love it when the power of a fish pulls you around the ocean. You can see how stable the wave runner is. I'm sitting on the side and I've got 5 kilos of kingy drag on, in addition to my weight, trying to pull me down. We're barely on a lean. Surely he's got to be running out of steam. It's been a 10-minute fight. And okay, we're only on 15 kilo gear, but still, he just gets on his side in what I call that death circle. When they get really tired, they just lie on their side and just conserve their energy. A bit like a GT, they use that full side of their body as a kind of a drag to stop them being pulled towards the boat. And if they dig in, it's just impossible to get them to go where you want them to go. He doesn't understand. We're going to release him. Fair enough, I suppose. This is the time when the fish is going to be lost. If it's going to be lost, it's going to be lost at the ski. Oh yeah. Oh, and that is a nice fish. Whoa, whoa, whoa. He's trying to mark the spot where he came from on the lower ends. But man, that is a nice fish. And there he is. It's about a 17 kilo kingfish. Caught on 15 kilo line, right in close.
Fishy Business is proud to support Legacy.